Hello, everyone. My name is Savannah Scarato, and welcome to my final Women in Gender Studies project. I am super excited to show you my painting that I worked really hard on and my topic. I think you guys will really enjoy. For the sake of time and out of respect for your guys' time, I did paint the background to my painting prior to filming the video. So the purple and brown colors I painted before filming, but without further ado, let's jump into my topic. My topic was kind of inspired by a conversation I heard recently, and it made me really think about it and kind of deep dive into it, and that is the topic of sensitivity, specifically when it comes to human rights issues and politics. So if you are active at all on social media, or if you watch the news, or really even if you just have any political conversations with other people, I'm sure you have heard someone say, oh, they're just being too sensitive, or political correctness even is just sensitivity and people just need to get over it. So that always kind of bothered me when I heard that, and I didn't really understand why until I took this deep dive into this topic and where it came from. So I had a couple of questions that I wanted to really research. One, are there people that are more sensitive than others? If there are, why are they more sensitive? Is it a good thing that they're more sensitive, or is it a bad thing? I'm super excited for you guys to find out my findings, and hopefully you learn something new today. So to answer my first question, are there people that are more sensitive than others? I came up with a clear answer through studies that I had looked at and researched, and neuroscientist Gail Saltz discovered that people have different size brain structures, and that may affect how they view emotions, their own emotions, whether that's other people's emotions, or even how those emotions play into decision making. So some people have a larger amygdala. This is the part of the brain that acts on fear, and it also triggers your flight or fight response. So if a person would to have a larger sector of this brain, they would act more out of fear, and they would probably prefer stability and consistency. Now, on the other hand, people have a larger anterior cingulate gyrus. This part of the brain is the part of the brain that monitors conflict attention. So it would help you know how other people are feeling with what I'm saying, and am I about to start a conflict? So people who have a more active and larger part of this brain would have a higher sensitivity rate, right, to their own emotions and other people's emotions. They would realize how that would come off to other people, especially when it comes to their own speech. So I looked at another study to try and see if I can fully understand whether some people are more sensitive than others. This study is more political, so it does focus on the political side of sensitivity, but a sample of 4,000 people were asked to choose whether a statement was true out of the choice of two of them. The first statement asked whether one should be sensitive about their speech when talking to another person, knowing their background and emotions and history in that topic. The second statement, on the other hand, talked about whether people shouldn't be offended by people's speech. So they were both on the two sides of the spectrum, whether you should be sensitive towards people's emotions or whether people should just not have an emotional reaction to speech. So this study found that across the general public in our nation, that it's actually pretty divided, which one is more accurate. But when you broke it down by certain communities, it wasn't so divided. In white demographics, a higher percentage agreed with the second statement. And in minority demographics, higher percentage agreed with the first statement. And in also many different studies, women have actually scored higher on tests that focus on social sensitivity, as well as empathy, as well as the willingness to be sensitive to other people's emotions. So I feel like the answer to my first question has been very clear. There are more people that are not only scientifically more sensitive to other people, but also there are certain demographics that are more sensitive to other people. So the answer to my first question is yes, there are people that are more sensitive than others. So now to answer my second question, which is why are people more sensitive than others? So as we found in my studies that minorities are more sensitive as well as women. Now, this is a direct parallel with the history of oppression of people. Historically, women and minorities have been severely oppressed, and statistically, they are more likely to be sensitive of others' emotions as well as their own. So, to me, that's an explanation of why people might be more sensitive than others. But now the question is being sensitive a bad thing? Is there a problem with that? Now, for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to argue and say that it's not a bad thing, that actually it's the reason that we are going to be able to make change in our world. The definition of sensitivity is being aware of other people's emotions and needs and considering how what you do affects them. Now, why is being aware of your actions and how they impact other people a bad thing? People who have been marginalized scientifically want to stop the cycle of oppression, and one way of doing this is by being clearly anti-oppressive. To me, this just sounds like those people want to make the world a better place for other people. When we think about those demographics I talked about earlier that are more sensitive, it's women and people of minorities. Now, women have been victims of hateful speech and harmful actions, and I believe that the reason they're more sensitive is because they realize the impact that this has had on them and the women before them, and they're not only fighting for themselves, but also fighting for other people so that this doesn't happen to them. And this is the same for people of minority, right? So they have dealt with many different oppressive things, racism and slavery, and they are there to stop the cycle. If you consider wanting to stop this cycle as being too sensitive, then I hope people call me too sensitive. I hope to be too sensitive because being too sensitive is how we make change. By being too sensitive, that's how we make the world a better place, not only for ourselves, but every single person in it, even if they aren't like you. This semester, we have learned about women in the past and what they went through and what they did to fight against it and change the world, as well as we learned women who are currently fighting to change our world for the better. These women have all been called too sensitive at one point or another, but they realized that those terms were just a way of justifying intolerance, and they stood up against it. I don't believe that we would be in the place we are today if those people weren't too sensitive, and I hope that we continue to be quote unquote too sensitive because that's how we continue to make change. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed my creative expression.